Hello.
Hello. Hi,
How are
everybody.
you?
I'm okay. I'm all right. I'm
Mhm.
going to apologize in advance because I've got a cold. So I might be providing my own live femme gore horror for everybody today because I'll be coughing and sneezing my way through this live. But apart from that, I'm very, very excited. How are you?
Honestly, I'm so excited. I'm still getting over my cough and my sneeze, but I'm a lot better than I was last week, so
Good.
that's celebration.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And we're so
I'm so
excited.
excited.
No, my gosh, again, another corker. I have just been immersed in the horror of
I
Jessie's
know.
book. Welcome, everybody. First of all, thanks for joining us again. We have an amazing guest. Who is it, Sam?
Jessie Elland, the author of The Lady Upstairs. One of my favourite books of last year, actually. It
Yeah,
was so captivating, and as well for a debut,
yeah,
I just the lyricism of the writing in itself, it's so like immersive, it's so visceral. Like
yeah,
there's just something about what she puts in the writing.
yeah,
It just keeps you reading, and it just the unreliable. Like I'll speak more about it later because I've got so many questions about the narrator and everything. But the unreliable narrator of it all is one of my favorite things. It's one of my favorite tropes. Is it a trope?
yeah.
I don't know. But
I
yeah,
reckon.
it's
Yeah.
unreliable narrator is one of my favorite things to read. So yeah, this one was a treat for me.
It really was, wasn't it? And visceral is the right word, and yeah, and lyrical. I mean, it is such an accomplished book for anybody, but let alone a debut. And
Mm.
just the mastery of that genre and just how disturbing it really is absolutely amazing. Excuse me. And I really couldn't put it down. I really was, yeah, captivated in the most horrific way, which is a compliment.
I knew that you were hooked when I woke up to a message saying, "Oh my God, Jessie's book."
Hi,
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 how are you
Jessie.
both?
All
I'm
right.
good. How are you?
Good, thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad I worked out how to come on. I realized I've never done a live like as a guest before, so that was an experience. But
Oh,
we're here. I made it.
You did
you
it.
did it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so honoured that we're your
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I've got another Northerner with me.
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome, Jessie. We were literally just, yeah, singing the praises of your horrifically awesome book. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a whirlwind it must have been for you.
Yeah, definitely. It still is, to be honest. I still can't really believe it. I went into a local library the other day and saw it on the shelf, and that was extra surreal. So it hasn't got any more believable to me yet.
Wonderful. There is something so special about seeing your book in a library, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I was
Yeah.
obsessed with my local library growing up, so yeah, really, really special.
Lovely.
That must feel really surreal. Really
Yeah,
surreal.
yeah. And what's
No,
weird is I went into my local one and saw it on the like the reservation, as in someone had reserved it, so ready to pick up. So
oh
that
wow.
was extra special.
Yeah.
Even nicer.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we've
It's
got
like
so
seeing the
much to ask.
sales in person, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it's an institution, isn't it? It's something that's such a leveler as well and so
hmm
accessible for everyone. It just somehow
Yeah.
makes it even more official, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Wonderful. Well, we've got so much we want to ask you. So, so much. Sam, would you like to kick off?
Well, first, would you like to explain what The Lady Upstairs is about for anyone that may not have read
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, let me brush off my
it?
elevator pitch. It's been a while since I've done like an event or an interview, but this is good practice for the paperback. So the lady upstairs follows Anne, who is a scullery drudge toiling away in the depths of Rotten Hall where the book is set. And she's utterly miserable. And the only thing that's really getting her through is the thought she has of the world upstairs and the lady who inhabits it, which she thinks is, it's a world of cleanliness and purity and goodness. And then one day she has a chance encounter with said lady and enters this world that she's dreamed about for so long. But she soon realizes that the horrors up there might be even worse than the devil she knows below.
Beautifully put. It does summarize such a detailed and complex and very visceral. We kept using the word visceral when we were talking about it, and it is just so also just kind of like sensual in the most horrific ways, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We'd
It's
love to
laced
know,
with desire.
yeah, and just that complex kind of relationship with female desire,
Mhm.
female, well, womanhood, everything. We'd love to know a bit more about what inspired you to write it.
Well, the inspiration kind of came when I was in second year uni, so quite a while ago now. And weirdly, it all started with La La Land, which is probably not what you thought I was going to say. But I really, really wanted to be an actress, and I had no idea how to make it happen. And I went to go see La La Land, and obviously that's features a character that also wants to be an actress who has ginger hair and likes musicals and all that kind of thing. I was like, oh my God, it's me. I'll just do what she does and like write a play, put that on, and get an agent, and then be an actress. So I thought, well, I know I want to do a period drama, so I'll write a period drama one woman play. And I was reading, I just got into Shirley Jackson, so I was like, oh, maybe I'll make it a little bit gothic-y. Sat down, immediately realised that I had no idea how to write a play, let alone a one woman play. So very quickly binned that idea, but the concept that I had of the setting, and I had like a vague idea about having kind of the central dynamic of a lady upstairs and a lady downstairs. That kind of stayed with me, and I've always been a huge reader, and I've always been scribbling down stories since I was very little. So the idea kind of festered until it became a novel, basically, and what you have in front of you there.
Absolutely amazing.
So when would you say that you like kind of put pen to paper with the idea to start writing the book?
Um, Gosh, that will have been. I think the initial idea came about in like 2019, I think it will have been now. Um, but I didn't really get chance to write it properly until lockdown started. And then I booked my first acting job, and I had a lot of time traveling and downtime in the dressing room where I was really able to get the words down and shape it in the way that I wanted to.
Amazing. And what kind of input did you get, especially if it was your first novel? You were kind of, learning as you went along,
Mhm.
trying to write a play, which then turned into something completely different. Like, how did you learn how to write such an accomplished novel?
I've always been a very big reader, so that
Yeah,
helped. And like I said, I got really into, I kind of discovered Gothic literature around the time I started writing it. So I just kept reading around that because I know a lot of authors don't like to read as they write, but I find it really, really helpful. But then also once I got a literary agent and then subsequently a publisher and an editor, they were so, so helpful. It really does. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it does take a village to turn a book from the initial idea to the thing that you see on shelves. My agent was so, so helpful because I had all these like really crazy ideas, and she was like, maybe we don't want to do like too much, especially because it already is quite a lot just by itself. So she really helped me strip it back a little bit, and then obviously it was shaped all the more nicely when I started working with Baskerville. So yeah.
amazing.
Amazing. What sparked the original idea? I know you mentioned La La Land, but like, where does the lady upstairs come into that? Like, it's
Yeah.
so different.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's definitely different to La La Land.
Yeah.
I like I say, I was reading Gothic literature at the time, and I think I just kind of um was researching a little bit into that, and I got really interested in the idea of the doppelganger and the ways that manifests in Gothic literature, in kind of folklore and all these different forms of media. And I think it's funny. There's always like a Gothic. There's always a doppelganger resurgent. I think we've seen quite recently in The Substance. That's kind of like a bit of a doppelganger story. So that really interested in me. So it was probably that planted the seed, I think, between the what goes on with Anne and Lady, without giving too much away.
Now you brushed on the fact that you were aspiring to be an actress, which of course you are a fully fledged actress and a very successful one now. Um, can you tell us a little bit about that relationship as well? You know, it sounds like you weren't really planning on being a writer necessarily, and that actually your writing was meant to facilitate the acting, but also,
Mm.
you know, now you're kind of, you find yourself in a completely different place.
Yeah.
In terms of storytelling and those kind of themes, you know, how do the two
Mm.
come together?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because it has kind of crisscrossed because when I was really little, all I wanted to be was an author. Like
Right.
from about 5 or 6, I have like these wads of A4 paper that have been folded up into books that are never like complete, and they're all called something like James and the Giant Tomato, completely original ideas. So that's always something at the back of my mind. But I kind of, I didn't do English past GCSE, so I thought it wasn't something that was ever going to be possible. It would be a hobby, maybe something I would pursue later in life. And wanting to act kind of took over. But they do have, I really like fitting them together. I think they're quite symbiotic. And acting really, really helped because around the time, like when I was in uni, I'd found some acting classes in Manchester, so I was doing that quite a lot. And we did a lot of workshops around building character and finding characters' voices. And I think that really, really helped me generally as a writer, but especially with The Lady Upstairs, because I wanted the narrative voice to be really strong and really distinctive. And I think treating it as a character that I was kind of almost playing, sat at my desk writing, really, really helped.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Now, quite aesthetically, I'm obsessed with the cover.
It's
Like,
brilliant,
it is
isn't it? I love it.
perfect.
Yeah.
I just kind of want to know how much say you had over it. Did you have that portrait in mind beforehand?
Do you know what is so wild? So I love Pinterest. I had so many Pinterest boards for this. Anything I write, I have like a million Pinterest boards for it. And then obviously when I got the deal, I was like, well, now it's time to make a cover Pinterest board. And I was kind of moving things that I already had on my old board across. And that painter, I've been saying for the better part of a year, I'm going to learn how to say his name and I always forget. I think it's August Toulamouche. I'm probably butchering that, so please forgive me if anyone knows how it's correctly said. He has a painting called sometimes it's called The Hesitant Fiance, sometimes it's called The Reluctant Bride, and you'll recognize it because it went viral on TikTok maybe a year and a half ago because it's this woman dressed in white surrounded by other women getting her ready for the wedding, and she just has this kind of like thousand yard stare, and I really, really loved that. And paintings in general really inspired me with that book in terms of blocking scenes, in terms of kind of creating characters and helping me get into the right mood or atmosphere for a particular moment. So that painting was really useful. And through that, I found some of his other work, one of which is Vanity, which is the painting that's on that front cover. So I had that
Wow.
on my mood board. And it just so happened there was no kind of there was some images that I sent, but weirdly Vanity wasn't one of them. And when they came back with the cover, I couldn't believe it. That was the painting that was on one of my mood
Oh,
boards.
wow.
But they've obviously kind of made it. They've given it this lovely twist of the scribble over her face, which is really great. And what's so funny actually, whenever I sign that book, I think with Waterstones, there must be some rule where, they're signed by the author sticker. They
Yeah.
have to put it in the top right corner, and every bookseller goes to do it and is like, "Oh no, I don't want to cover the scribble," and kind of like awkwardly puts it to the side because it is so fab.
It's
Honestly,
gorgeous.
it's so beautiful. It's so like captivating before you even read the blurb.
Yeah,
Like it's
I feel so
perfect
so lucky to have that
example.
cover.
And it's
Absolutely.
so like happenstance as well. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
And amazing how all the different kind of art forms come together as well. You're inspired by theatre, you're inspired by
Mhm.
art, it comes into literature. That's so gorgeous. And so that's kind of the journey. And then what about when it was out there? What happened next?
That was a really, really crazy experience. Um, I was so lucky that I had a lot of amazing independent bookshops in the Northeast were super, super supportive. So the first event that I did was at the Bound in Whitley Bay, which is a brilliant bookshop. I
Um,
really recommend it. So that was nice because all my family and my friends could come. But I was so nervous, like so, so nervous. But I did it with a lovely author called Heather, who was the chair, and she was great. And yeah, it's been really fun. Each event I kind of get slightly less nervous because it must be like a little bit, I guess you could call it imposter syndrome, but And I feel like sometimes I have to revise my book in case someone asks a really good question. I'm like, oh my God, I can't think of like an adequate enough answer. I feel a lot of pressure to sound like articulate and I don't know, like what I think an author should sound like. But what's been really great is every other author that I've met um, is so, so supportive and so wonderful and just genuine and welcoming as well. And then, of course, all the readers, a lot of whom as well write or are aspiring authors, are brilliant. And it's been so special. And I've made so many friends since it's come out,
Oh,
which is great.
that's good. Well, you're very humble because it has been so incredibly well received and
Oh, thank
absolutely
you.
rightly so. And one of the reasons I think is because however kind of extreme and horrific it is, it's also bizarrely really relatable in so many
Mm,
ways. Can you talk to us a little bit about people's responses from that point of view? You know, what they have been able to relate to and the,
yeah.
you know, kind of conversations and feedback that you've had around the themes and the issues that you just so well explore in your book.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting and it feels really special because it's something that I really wanted to try and achieve. There's a lot of ambiguity
Yeah,
within various aspects of the novel because I really wanted people to kind of be able to project their own interpretation on it because I love it when as a reader I get to do that. So people
yeah,
have taken so many different bits and kind of translated it in their own way and to their own experience. I've had a lot of older women that have read it that kind of talk about how it relates to the menopause and how they felt it from that aspect, which was really, really interesting. The descriptions of menstruation are the kind of like go-to that people talk about because, like you say, it is that weird thing of the juxtaposition or the tension between the uncomfortableness and the disgust, but then also being able to relate to it. And that is something as a writer, and I think as a reader as well, I'm really interested in kind of the marrying of the the beautiful with the grotesque. And I try to
yeah,
do that in a lot of aspects, especially with like the body horror stuff, but also even just within the landscape. A lot of the book is set in autumn and I love that season. I think it's so fascinating because I think that is like the epitome of seeing the beautiful and the grotesque kind of dance around each other and interplay when you have all these kind of beautiful colours of the fallen leaves that get turned into that horrible mulchy stuff that you have to like
yeah.
squash your way through.
Rotting and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
festering and all of
so
that.
I
Yeah,
was really interested in exploring that, and I think the landscape aspect of it as well really helped kind of build, and the food too,
yeah,
build it into a more sensory experience, which was really fun to explore.
absolutely.
The portrayal of mental illness, especially like bulimia and everything else in the book, I thought it was absolutely spot on, and I just found it really moving. But how did
Mm.
you go about approaching that, especially in a historic kind of setting where things
Yeah,
like that didn't really have names back then?
yeah, that's so well. Thank you first of all, and that's really interesting. What's funny is I think I didn't necessarily uh, set out to explore that, but as Anne developed as a character and her voice and her experience developed, that became so intrinsic to who she was and her arc as a character. So it really kind of, yeah, it kind of became essential to who she was and to her story. And then in terms of a historic setting, that's really interesting. I did kind of a lot of wider reading. I'm a big one for research. Sometimes it's kind of procrastination. If I don't want to write, I'll go, oh, well, I need to research. But I like thinking of it as this kind of big iceberg. You have all this research, probably a lot of which doesn't go into the novel underneath, and then you have the tiny little glistening white peak on top that is the novel. And within that kind of hidden underwater bit was a lot of research into how women's mental health was treated. But like I say, a lot of it didn't go directly in. And I think I also like when books are able to um, connect us through history because I think there's some human experiences that are so universal, it kind of transcends time. So it was like a bit of marrying between doing the wider research, but then also kind of stripping it back to a place where time and history was almost irrelevant because it's such a like a common thread, I guess, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it does.
completely.
Absolutely.
I
And
thought
you've
it was
meant,
just explored expertly. Like
yeah,
Oh, thank
reading it,
you.
it was just so every single thing that you wrote in this book just kind of jump off the page. And I find that so rare. And I read a lot of books, obviously, Bookstagram, you read a lot of books, but there's very, very, very few that I have kind of sat back and it's still sat with me for quite like days, weeks afterwards. And it's just kind of, yeah, it's one of them for me. And it's,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, that's so
yeah.
lovely. Thank you.
Fully agree, yeah. And
Thank
it's
you.
well, I think what we were saying with Sam before you joined us was that the voice, the narrative voice is so accomplished for especially for a debut. And I don't think that's very easily taught. You know, like you said, it's really interesting. We could talk more about your research. You know, it's one thing I think to be well read, and I fully agree with you that almost that's the best kind of education you can give yourself as a
Yeah.
writer. But then to translate that into something that really is so original and unique, especially in terms of voice, I think that's really, really hard to do. Were
Mm.
you aware of that? Was that something you were really determined to nail? You've talked about exploring character, which is absolutely, you know, a part of acting as well, like you said, and so many great acting exercises that help you kind of explore that. But yeah, maybe we can talk a bit about your narrative voice and just how kind of consciously you approach that.
Yeah, the voice, the narrative voice was really, really important to me, and I think it's what helped me find momentum with the actual writing of it. Because in the early
Mm,
stages, the story looked quite different from how it ended up. It was a lot more conventional, um, uh, and it was told first person narrative through Anne. And I was just finding it wasn't quite clicking. And then when I kind of stepped back a little bit and gave myself time to develop that narrative voice almost as a character in itself, it really, really, really helped um, with the writing of it and kind of made it the book it is today. And there was a point where I did worry about being too, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but intense maybe with
yeah.
the voice. Um, because I think as well as women, you're kind of told to kind of keep things neat and tidy and clean, um, and you kind of self-censor sometimes without realizing. But then I read a book called Hurricane Season. I don't know if either of you have read it. um, that's a very, very intense book. It's very, very dark. I would recommend it with caution, but it was so arresting and brilliant, and kind of like you were saying, Sam, I would it like jumped off the page at me, and I would think about it long after I read it. I mean, it's been a few years since I've read it now, and I still think about it quite a lot because it was so um, visceral. But I think that was so essential to the story and to the message, and it kind of really showed me that having sometimes, especially in horror, having these kind of really gruesome, gory, or jarring and over the top moments can be really important because they're vehicles for wider topics, and um, the horror of it can kind of rip over that conversation and help it happen a lot sooner, I think. So that helped me kind of get back on board with the style of voice that I had in mind, that I was a little bit scared to do, but it kind of gave me the motivation to keep it intense.
Isn't it interesting that, you know, so much of the book is just about kind of like judging yourself and self-censoring and, you know, trying to purge yourself of your own natural kind of like feelings, and yet, you know, you're doing it in a different, or we
Yeah,
all do it on a different level, you know, even when we're
yeah.
writing the damn thing.
Mhm.
But you
That's
like
why it's so relatable as well.
100%, yeah. And actually, you know, you've made the point that horror isn't, you know, especially the way you write horror, and so many of my favorite horror writers are not just writing for the sake of, you know, just disturbing people, but that it
Mhm.
can really be a way of exposing and exploring, you know, really relevant and kind of
Yeah.
uh yeah, meaningful topics and issues. Would you like to talk a bit more about maybe what you wanted to explore here, and also what
Mm.
you wanted maybe or hoped the readers would take away from that, and what, you know, what you care about, in terms of a writer that you want to kind of explore, that you imagine will continue to be issues and themes that you would explore in future writing as
Yeah,
well?
that's such a lovely question. I think, and I think maybe a lot of writers would say this. I kind of didn't approach um, with themes or topics in mind. It was the story that came first for me, and then the characters that followed. I know sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes people find the characters, and then the story comes. Um, but yeah, the kind of the themes and the topics were kind of subliminally rose to the top. I've always been interested in class and in women and women's relationship with their bodies and women in society and how that has changed and evolved through history. And funnily enough, I was writing my dissertation at the time as well about the representation of the Northeast in
Mm.
film. So I'm always interested in kind of like the class aspect of that, and then kind of the northern landscape. So they were all things that came in subconsciously and then grew and grew with the book, which was nice because they're things that I am really passionate about and really interested in exploring and really interested in continuing to explore. I think I'm really, really passionate about telling stories set in the Northeast that are very different from the ones that we're used to being told. Because I think a lot of the time, the only stories that the Northeast is allowed to tell are ones that are related to, mining and masculinity. Women's stories very rarely get told, but the landscape is so incredible and so diverse. And I think it would be such an incredible host for all kinds of stories that aren't just, like the gritty kitchen sink realism, but like horror and fairy tales, fantasy, romances, comedies. Like I think there's so much within that. I think it's really exciting to try and explore that and rewrite the narrative a little bit. So I'm always interested in telling stories set in the Northeast, or kind of related in some way to the North and the Northeast. And then, yeah, I think as a woman, I'll always be interested in the talking about the female experience and writing that and exploring that as it continues to evolve for me personally. As I get older, as I experience more things, there's always going to be kind of new ways for me to look at it, I think.
Amazing.
Yeah, 100%. And is there anything like you're working on to do with that in the minute? I know you went to the south of France on a writing residency,
Yes.
didn't you? Um, what was that like? What was you working on something? Was it to take time out?
Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. It was because last year I found it so difficult, and I still think I find it difficult now to realize that I'm an author and I'm a writer and I'm allowed to call myself that. And it's not, I'm not skiving off doing something else if I spend a day writing. That's like actually my job. So I thought a residency would be a good way to kind of get over that hurdle and also understand my creative process a lot more and understand maybe I'll work out how I wanted my routine or my writing habits to look. So that was really helpful for that. And there was a project that I took and managed to work quite a lot on there that hopefully I'll be able to talk about very soon, I think. Which is a horrible like little tease, but it is um, to do with everything that I've been talking about. I'm fascinated by, like I said, the Northeast and folklore, so it's kind of along that line. And that's all I'll say for now, because I don't know
Brings
when
it
I'll be
all.
able to say something.
Exciting,
Oh,
so exciting. Wonderful. And what did you discover about your writing process? You must
Mhm.
still be discovering it, right? And I'm sure it will keep evolving. But can you tell us about some of your routines and rituals
Mhm.
and what you've discovered is important and actually what isn't important that other people might assume is?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of emphasis on having a writing routine. And before I went out, I was like, well, that's what I'm going to discover. I'm going to discover my writing routine. And I found loads of famous writing routines and schedules, like Kurt Vonnegut's and Ursula K. Le Guin's. And I was like, well, I'm going to try them and I'm going to see what works for me. And Ursula K. Le Guin's was very intense. That involved getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and like writing until 9. And so that
Wow.
was a lot. But I think what I realized was um, that I don't think there is such a thing as a writing routine that you can do every single day or every single working day. I think you kind of have to allow yourself the space to write with your mood sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that takes the pressure off and gives you the space to um, just write what you want to write, and I think it helps it flow out of you more naturally. But I did discover in kind of trying all the different writing routines that I think I work best in the morning, allow myself space to have a bit of an afternoon slump, and then kind of come back, maybe reread what I've written, tweak that a little bit. But the best thing for me was just trusting myself to be intuitive with when I was ready to write, when I needed to push myself, when I needed to pull back. So it was really, really special to have the space to do that. And also there was a lot of other creatives and writers and artists on the residency as well. So it was so special to meet them and learn from them, how what their creative experience is like, how they conduct their routine slash non-routine, going back to what I just said. So that was really great, and I think it's something that I will refer back to both personally and professionally. And I would love to go on another residency. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a couple there who met on a residency, I think 40 years ago, and have been on one nearly every year or every other year since, which was
Wow.
just, yeah, goals.
Amazing. That
Mm,
sounds like a dream.
yeah.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, like, just to your point, Jessie, I think what was really inspiring for me was to hear that you were using your time, in when you weren't filming, as an actress to do your writing. And sometimes I think what's missing in the conversation about writers' routines is that some people are still not doing it full time. Some people have other, demands on their time and responsibilities. And so, it's such a luxury and it's so gorgeous when you are, somewhere else completely where you
Mhm.
can focus on it. But that's
Yeah.
not always real life, So understanding what is something that is non-negotiable, but other things where you really, just have to kind of work with the reality of your daily life and just make the writing happen, is also
Yeah.
quite an important conversation, I think, otherwise we assume that everyone has, all the time in the world and no
Yeah,
other
of
kind of
course.
demands on their time. And
Yeah.
that's just not true.
And I think the most important thing is making sure that you do enjoy it still, and you
Mm,
don't take the fun out of it and the love for it and the thing that draws you to it, because I think once that's gone or forcibly removed by you trying to be really strict and regimented, then it's just not going to work. That passion won't be there, and whoever reads it'll feel something missing. So I think it's important to keep the love for it and the enjoyment that you get out of it alive too.
yeah. And maybe a bit harder to do for the second novel just because there's so much more pressure and there's
Yeah,
often
because you have an
deadlines.
idea of a reader then. It's like an actual
Yeah.
thing that's materialized from your last one. But for me, and maybe it sounds really vain, but the best way that I find to combat that, and I was thinking about this even when I was writing my first one, is writing for myself as if I was the only
Yeah.
reader. I try, and obviously it's so amazing to talk to readers and hear that they've enjoyed the book. But I think when I'm writing, I really have to not think about that and just have to think, this is just for me. I'm just writing like I'm the only person that's ever going to read it. I'm writing what I want to read. Kind of sod everyone else almost, because then you kind of stop questioning yourself. When you're just writing it for yourself, you do really stop questioning. Obviously then with the editing you then have to put your kind of I have reader's brain on, and that's when you can kind of go back stuff. But for the writing, I think I wouldn't get anything done if I was questioning how people were going to read it too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Very
that's
nice.
what sparks a little bit of magic in this book, to be fair, because there's so many things that contribute to like a book getting noticed, going into reviews, things being marketed and things being like recommended. And it's all very strategic at times, and like you've just said, I think if you constantly did that to please people, it would get very not enjoyable,
Mm.
probably get burnout. And I think it worked perfectly because you could tell you enjoyed writing the book.
Yeah, I did. Thank you very much. So I really enjoyed it.
And also, you narrated the audiobook, is that right?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I was very lucky that they let me do that. I'd just done another audiobook the year before, and I kind of said to my literary agent, if they wouldn't mind, I'd love to be considered. So they got me to do a little sample, and luckily they said, oh yeah, go on then, because I would have been mortified if I sent the sample and they went, oh no thanks. But they said yeah, and I got to record it in the Northeast as well,
Oh,
which was really amazing with a lovely producer called Lucy, who was just fantastic and who really, really liked the book as well, which was so special. Um, yeah, that was a really surreal experience. It was so weird, but really rewarding because when I was writing it, I was thinking about rhythm quite a lot. There's an amazing book that I really, really love called, it's got a really pretentious title, but I promise it's not. It's a really good book. Called How to Write Like Tolstoy. Like I said, title is quite pretentious, but it's more you can tell it's been written by someone that loves reading, and he kind of just goes through what makes these great books so great and what makes these memorable characters so memorable. And he has a chapter all about rhythm. And I was really, really obsessed with that when I was writing that book, and the idea of creating rhythm with alliteration and repetition. And so it was a big full circle moment to do the audiobook and then go back to my memories sat at the desk coming up with the rhythm because I would speak it aloud quite a lot when I was writing it. So then to speak it in a booth reading it was really surreal.
amazing.
Full
And
circle moment.
yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
So you've
Gorgeous.
been on panels, you've done sign-ins, you've done the residency, all within like 6 months of the book coming out. But what's been your highlight since it's been published? What's the one thing that sticks in your mind?
Oh, definitely. So my mum was one of the very first readers of this book. And she's always been my first reader, and she's always been very, very supportive of me being an author. And I actually kept me writing this book secret from her and everyone else for a very, very long time because I thought I've always wanted to write a book, but I don't want to tell anyone because then they'll be asking me questions and I'll feel pressure. I'm just going to do it for a bit for myself, see if I can manage it. And if I can't, no one needs to know and it's fine. And if I can, then maybe I'll tell people. And so I kept it secret for her from ages. But even without her knowing about it, she would go, "Oh, Jess, when are you going to write a book? When are you going to write something? You should write a book. You should write a book." And I'd be thinking, "I am." And she don't want you to know yet. So she was one of the first person I told that I was writing it, and I dedicated the book to her. I said to Mum, who's always been my first reader. So I think the most special thing was the moment I got my very first copy, with all the acknowledgements, all the dedications, and the epigraph and everything. And I got to give it to her, and seeing her reaction was just, yeah, really special. And actually, when I was recording the audiobook, I had to read the dedication, and I had to do it several times because I would get so choked up because it really, really
Oh,
meant a lot, and all the acknowledgements at the end as well. But I think there are a lot of highlights, but I think that one's quite hard to top. It was really special.
That's
wow.
beautiful.
It is gorgeous, isn't it? And I can really imagine that moment being such a like, oh, this is real, this has really happened, and I'm reading it out and here's the dedication and just how
Yeah.
gorgeous, really gorgeous. Well, you've mentioned that you do a lot of reading for research, but it sounds like you're also just a prolific reader. And I know on your socials as well, even before the book came out, you were talking so much about the books that you've read and your thoughts on them and what inspires and doesn't. Can you tell us a bit about the books that really have kind of, yeah, just maybe moments in your life or eras of your life and the kind of books that you were reading, as you went on and what your reading journey has been?
Oh wow. Oh gosh, that's so hard because I have so many books that I read. But what I really like, I'm all for um having a book look like it's been well read. Like I don't mind
Yeah.
keeping my book, not having books that are in pristine condition. And I'm a big dog earer and an underliner as well. I know some people hate that, so sorry for anyone that does. But I really love, especially the books that I return to time and time again. I read Slaughterhouse-Five a lot. I read Atonement a lot. Northern Lights by Philip Pullman as well. I love that. And then all of Shirley Jackson, and so it's really nice to revisit the books, and I have these like breadcrumb of dog ears and underlinings and kind of remembering when I first read them and how much it impacted me or why I liked it. And each time I read it, I get kind of another layer of life that's happened around reading it, which is really lovely. And I saw something, I think it was a Cillian Murphy interview where he says he writes when he has first read the book in the front. So I've started doing that now.
Oh,
And when
wow.
I did my hardback tour, each bookshop I went to, this was probably a bad idea because now I have so many books to read. I would buy a book from each bookshop and write the date and where I got it from, and that it was on the Ladie Upstairs hardback, Ladie Upstairs hardback event. So that was really special. But in terms of books relating to the Ladie Upstairs, I think the big three for it would be Hurricane Season, which I've mentioned, How to Write Like Tolstoy again, which is one that I've mentioned, and We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, which is one of my favourite books of all time. And that was the first, I think, the first piece of Gothic literature that I read, and I just fell in love with her. And then subsequently all her other books and all her short stories. But that one was just really, really special, and I think it has one of the best openings of all time. I love that book. I could read it again and again and never get sick of it.
That's such a good
Amazing.
book, and now you've got me wanting to reread it.
Yeah, me too.
That just triggered something in my head. I saw a quote a while back, and you were mentioning rereading, and I saw a quote, and it was, isn't it so funny? The more we read a book, the bigger it gets, as if it's got our memories stored inside the pages. And that just like brought it back to me. And I just
Yeah,
think
that's
that's
a
such a
lovely
beautiful
quote.
thought.
And so funny as well because I was just about to say We've Always Lived in the Castle is so slim, but it feels so giant because of all that's packed in it. And like you said, every time I've read it, it layers something new over it. I really like that. That's lovely.
Gorgeous.
I'm a massive annotator as well, so that underlining and everything really
Oh, good. I'm
resonates
glad.
with
It's a
me.
safe space because some people hate it.
It's such a safe place. Safe place.
Yeah, Sam is the queen of annotator, and yeah, you've
No
got
book is safe from my pen
no.
and my handwriting tabs.
That's right, highlighting tabs galore. It's gorgeous.
Double. It's a double-sided question, but if The Lady Upstairs were to be adapted into a TV series or a film, is there anyone in mind that you could see playing Anne or Lady? And then again, how involved would you like to be with the process? Would you like to be part of the rewrites? Would you, yeah.
Oh, that's such a juicy question. I'm kind of gonna, maybe this is sidestepping a little bit, but I would love, if it ever got adapted, Anne and Lady to be new faces, to be unknown actresses, preferably from the Northeast. I think that would be amazing, kind of going back to me harping on about the Northeast again. um, but I think it would be really, really special to have them be new faces. And I just think I love that as a viewer when I see people that I've never seen before, and it's kind of this revelation of new talent. And in terms of how much I'd like to be involved in it, I'd really like to be involved. Yeah, I just because I think I really have always loved film, so I would just find it so fascinating to kind of marry those two loves together and see the behind the scenes, the writing aspect of the behind the scenes. I think would be fascinating. I'd be keen to sink my teeth into that.
Mm,
I love that.
absolutely.
And then also I'd have to
I,
write myself a little cameo in
Obviously.
of course,
Obviously.
of course. I didn't have anyone in mind for Lady, but for Anne, I had Eliza Scanlon in my head the whole time while reading it.
Oh, that's great.
The whole time while reading it because I'd not long watched Little Women, and I was like, oh my God, that is literally Anne.
That is such G. Oh, I'm stealing that answer. Next time someone asks me that question, that's what I'm gonna say.
That's fine.
That's
You found
great
her.
casting. Oh
Do you
wow,
know
I
what?
love
I'm
that.
putting that on my
Okay, yeah,
CV.
I'll be involved in the process loads because then I can hire you as casting director because that's genius.
Sold. Sold. I'll make sure there's one from the northeast at least.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this team. It's a dream team, the Northern Dream Team. Um, well, it would be lovely. It would be really great to know. You've spoken so much about, the books that have inspired you, but obviously as an actress as well, you must be so inspired by film and TV.
Mm.
What are the shows, the movies, the writers, just the projects that you have been inspired
Mm.
by in those mediums?
Kind of indirectly, Emily, the Emily Bronte film.
Yeah,
Um, I say it indirectly because it was less so the story and more the visual aspect of it. The landscape in that film was just incredible, and
yeah,
I was really fascinated by how the landscape became a character. And as a tangent of that as well, I guess it's kind of related. I went to go see an adaptation of Wuthering Heights a few years before, an Emma Rice production, and in that they had the Moors as a character and it was
wow,
played by an actor, and that was just incredible. So, kind of marrying um, that idea with the landscape in Emily and the landscape of the Northeast, and the one that I wanted to have in my head was really useful. But the main reason I say indirectly inspired by Emily is because of the soundtrack. I am a big fan of, as well as creating Pinterest boards. I love a playlist for each project, and film soundtracks and instrumentals I think are so helpful for me personally to help me get into the mood of a scene or a character. And funnily enough, another big film that I used a lot of the soundtrack for was Little Women, which you wouldn't think because a lot of it is quite jovial, the music, a lot more so than the Lady Upstairs. But there were some really beautiful pieces that were so useful for when I was trying to write and fantasizing about upstairs or these
mm,
kind of incredible, dizzying banquets. So Emily was great for the darker stuff, and Little Women more so for the lighter moments, of which are very few, admittedly, but it was still really useful. And Alias Grace as well, the TV show. I loved the book and the music for that TV show. I haven't actually watched the show because I love the book so much that I don't want to kind of risk not liking a show. But the soundtrack was phenomenal, and that was really helpful to me as well.
You mentioned the Moors being almost, did you say it was a character?
Yeah, in the production that I went to go see, it was so incredible. I hope it comes back on tour again because it was just perfect. And yeah, they were the narrator. So the landscape, the moors in Wuthering Heights became the narrator for the piece.
So I found that Rockner Hall was like a character within its own right in the book. And that's so fascinating because if it did come to stage, I'd love that to be kind of the
Oh
vibe.
gosh, yeah, imagine. Yeah, that's really, thank you for saying that. I really hoped that people would kind of get that sense of Rockner Hall being its own horrible, scary character.
100%. It felt so like dark and gritty and claustrophobic even. It was just kind of there. And it wasn't just kind of a whimsical, like, yeah, the setting's here, but it's kind of wishy-washy. It was like,
Yeah.
no, I'm here and you're listening to
Uh-huh.
me right now.
Yeah. Well, kind of going back to your earlier question about films that inspired it, um, I can't watch horror films, which I know is so ridiculous as someone who writes horror, but I just really can't do it. But I don't know if you could call this a horror film, but thought it was a horror film when I first saw this when I was about 9 or 10. There's a film called Monster House. I don't know if you've seen. It's an animated film, terrifying to watch as a child. But in it, there is a monster house, which is this house that is, alive in some way and terrorizes these children. And I think subconsciously that was probably a big influence on Rock the Hall as well.
brilliant,
Terrified
amazing.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I
And
mean,
I
it served a good thing.
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I remember seeing years ago, a play about the Bronte sisters.
Mhm.
And so you had actresses playing the Bronte sisters, and then you had characters from all their most famous books, kind of, interrupting the scenes with the
Oh
Bronte
wow.
sisters, which was amazing. But the entire show, this woman crawled along the stage with her hair over her face and all disheveled and really, really kind of, torn clothes. And she was the mad woman in the attic. And she was just present the entire time, just stalking the stage. So the play was going on in the stage, but
Wow.
around it, you had this woman, and she was the most captivating. She hardly
Mm.
said a thing until the end, I think, but she was there the entire time. And and this must have been 20 years ago, like years and years ago. I can't
But it
remember.
still stayed with you.
Absolutely. And just the way you've written The Lady Upstairs, I think really harkens back to that, just
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah, very, just these moments that really stay with you, these images that really stay with you,
Mm.
and these scenes as well. Um, I know we've got, we're often joined, and people often watch these lives of ours who are aspiring writers or people who are starting off. What would you like to say to them? What advice would you give them? What experience would you share?
Oh gosh, that's so difficult because I feel so unqualified to give any advice because I feel like I'm learning so much. But I think um, maybe that's good advice, kind of always being open to learning and everything that we were saying earlier. Read. I think reading is one of um, the best ways to educate yourself as a writer. Not putting too much pressure on yourself to have a routine, keeping the fun and the passion alive and exploring the world around you off the page as well as reading being a great resource. I think watching films, going to the theatre, art galleries as well, I find hugely helpful if I'm ever kind of stuck on something or want to think of ways to expand an idea for a story or a scene or a character. I love walking around galleries and just finding random paintings or finding paintings that kind of speak to the project I'm working on and just standing with my notebook, scribbling loads of random words and then turning them into a sentence or a paragraph and then trying to slot that back in or just use it as a springboard to generate something new. And what's really great as well, so many galleries are accessible online, if you can't get to them or um, the some are ticketed and you don't want to pay for a ticket. There's a lot that's available online. You could do like Google 360 tours of them. Um, so yeah, kind of thinking about out the box a little bit in terms of what might inspire you.
Yeah, lovely. And also, especially what you've written, it is so visceral, it's so dark, it's so disturbing, and that's what's so brilliant about it. But you really go there in terms of some really difficult subject matter and, exploring people's mental health as well. How do you keep yourself safe? How do you look after yourself while you're going there?
Mm. I think something that really helps is having it the character element of it. So like I was saying, having the narration as a character when I'm sat at the desk with that when I was sat at the desk, sorry, and had that project open, that was kind of when I was focused on it, when I was being that character. And then once that was done, it was quite then easy to step away from it
Yeah,
because I'd put up this kind of extra barrier, if you like, by removing myself from it. So rather than me being the narrator, it was me playing this character of this really dark, intense narrator. So that helped quite a lot, I think.
yeah,
And also getting
lovely.
outside and walking about. That's another tip that I would give to people who want to write as well. There's nothing quite like an imagination walk. I've seen a lot of people online call them, which I think is the perfect word for it because just kind of getting out and about and moving stops you getting ideas getting stagnant and keeps things fresh, and also it helps your posture because let's be real, most of the time you're like hunched over a desk so you need that movement and a bit of fresh air.
Absolutely, so important. Very important practical advice for
Mm.
sure.
One of the taglines for The Lady Upstairs is, "Are you brave enough to enter Rottnest Hall?" Now, would you be brave enough to
No.
enter anymore.
Me
No.
neither.
I did
No.
think that would be the answer.
Definitely not. I can't do horror films. I can't. Sometimes I would actually scare myself writing that book. I know what I've said about like move away from it and stuff, but I remember reading something. I don't know if this is true or not. Um, I can't remember. I can't remember if it's a real story or a kind of story within a story. Supposedly, um, there was a writer who wrote, I think it might have been Mark Twain. I think it was Mark Twain wrote a character who was in prison playing with matches and ended up setting himself alight and either killing himself or really injuring himself. And then this character supposedly haunted Mark Twain and he couldn't get out of his head. And I remember reading that and thinking, oh my God, what if I accidentally like do that to myself and make a character that just I can't get out of my head and I start seeing anywhere. So I really freaked myself out when I read that.
Oh no.
So based on that experience and just me being a lifelong scaredy cat, I would say no, I wouldn't be brave enough for up no.
I don't
See,
think any of
I'd
us
go
would.
for it.
You would?
I'd go for it, yeah.
Wow.
I do love a horror film though, so maybe
Oh,
I'm just
okay, yeah.
naive.
Yeah, you'd feel right at home then if you love a good horror film.
Me and Jessie will wait by the river and we'll
Yeah.
wave to you from
That's okay, just if I don't come out within like an hour, send help,
there.
you know?
Yeah. Oh, Jessie, this has been such a pleasure. It's been
Oh, it's been great. These have
amazing.
been some really, really wonderful questions. So fun and juicy and great to answer. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, such
Thank
a
you so much for
pleasure.
agreeing to come on.
Yeah, and thank you for such an incredible, powerful debut novel. Like it really is
Oh, that's
so
so kind.
amazing
Thank you.
and such a pleasure. It was good homework for us to have to prepare. And we cannot wait to see what's coming next, which
Yeah. Oh, I
already
can't
is
wait
in
to
the
share
pipeline.
it. You'll be the
And
first
the
to know.
paperback.
So,
Please let us know. Yeah, we cannot wait to hear about it. We're here. We're ready to help you promote it. We
oh,
can't wait
thank
to learn
you.
about it. And we wish you all the best with whatever the process is and wherever you are with that.
Oh, thanks so much. Well, I can't wait to watch your next live. This has been so much fun.
Thank you,
Oh, thank you so
Jessie.
much.
And all the
Yeah.
best. See you
Right. See you
soon.
soon.
Bye.
Bye. Wow.
I know. Just
Absolutely amazing. Isn't it funny also that you can read such a dark book and then have someone so warm and bubbly and effusive? I'm like, that's not who I thought wrote this book at
this
all.
human wrote this. Like,
So
oh,
well balanced.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then, bless her, no, I'm not going in.
Isn't that amazing? I can't
You
believe she
wrote
doesn't watch
it.
horror movies. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I'm the same as her. I can't watch horror movies. But isn't it amazing that she's written that book and she wouldn't even watch a horror movie, probably
Uh-huh.
of her own work? Like, yeah, very
Oh my
interesting.
gosh, yeah. What if it did get adapted?
She'd have to look away at the gory bits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really, really amazing. And anybody who hasn't read The Lady Upstairs, I thoroughly recommend it. It's different to the kind of things that I've read before. And Sam, if you hadn't recommended it, it wouldn't have even been on my radar. And I'm so glad you did because it's so accomplished and it is deeply disturbing, but in the best way possible.
In the best way. I think I said to your message, I was like, it's femgore at its best.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's just it's up there with one of the best of horrors I've read. But it's I just still to this day can't believe it was a debut.
Yeah,
And that's how
agreed.
it feels when you're reading it.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And what about next week, Sam? Who have we got?
Next week we have Elena Armas, the author of The Spanish Love Deception. I am so when I tell you, I will be starstruck. I will be, oh my God. She was my introduction to Book Talk. She was one
Wow.
of her and Ali Hazelwood were, still are, but were exponentially the biggest authors on Book Talk at that time in romance genre. And I just love her. She is the sweetest human. She is just full of sunshine. Like you will see it. She just radiates sunshine and happiness and positivity. Oh, she's just the loveliest human, and I'm so excited excited to talk to her.
Yeah, me too. Now, it's going to be on a Monday instead, not a Wednesday. And it's another international conversation. So she's across the pond. She's in the States. Is that right?
She is.
Yeah,
So it's time to be confirmed just now, but it will be a later one. It'll
yeah,
probably be between 8:30 and 8. Just
yeah. 8, half 8 start. We'll let everybody know. But yeah, another amazing conversation by an amazing author who obviously has been a real inspiration for you, Sam, and such a
my first
another
book
full
I ever
circle.
annotated.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's so
Like
full
it's that
circle.
serious, Nina. It's
That
that serious.
that is where it all began for you. My
Yeah.
God,
I wouldn't be here.
if it wasn't for Eleanor's
No,
book.
I
Look where
don't
she
think I would.
started.
I know. Do we thank or do we say, what did you do?
Exactly. It's all her fault. But we want to thank everybody who joined us this evening. It really, really means a lot to have you here. We read your comments. We really know that you're part of our conversation. We hope you're enjoying it. We love doing it too. And you can watch back all our conversations either on our Instagram page, Putting the World to Rights,
With
or
dots in the middle.
with dots in the middle, or on our YouTube channel that Sam has amazingly set up, which has the full conversations as well. So please go back if you missed any of them and catch up on all of them. And we really hope you'll join us on Monday evening for another amazing conversation.
Thank you so much for joining, guys. And
Thank
the link to the
you.
YouTube is in the Instagram bio.
Perfect. Until Monday, everybody, take care.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.